Hey guys, welcome back to my 2012 Halloween countdown. Here in my watch list, I'm showing you a movie each day, and today we're talking about Creepshow. Creepshow is probably one of my favorite movies from when I was a kid as far as horror movies go. I've always enjoyed this. The very first time I watched it really spooked me. I saw it when I was fairly young. I would say, maybe 8 or 9 years old. And from then on, I always had this fascination with how weird this is. This was probably my first introduction to anthology horror, which I've fallen in love with ever since. And the interesting thing about this one is it's such a great setup. You've got George Romero directing, and unlike a lot of Stephen King stuff, this was originally written for the screen. This isn't based on one of his books. And like many of his other movies too, Stephen King makes a special appearance, so that's always fun to see him in the movies. But there's a wraparound on this one, and a wraparound always means that it's the story that starts at the beginning and usually kind of pops up along the way or possibly ends at the very end of the movie. It's sort of the introduction and it's the finale. The wraparound story on this one centers around a little boy and his dad. His dad throws out his comics, which this movie is kind of in a comic book format. There's a lot of comic book artwork in it. And it pays an homage to EC Comics from the 1950s, which is sort of where you're getting that storyline of the little kid that has his comics thrown out. The EC Comics in the 1950s had kind of a backlash from the public, and they started going after those, and a lot of children probably had their comics burned or thrown out or whatever, and a lot of those EC Comics from the 1950s didn't survive. But for this little boy here, he kind of has his own revenge, as I could say, without giving away too much. And then as it leads you into the other stories, there's lots of fun stories about monsters, about revenge, sort of like the undead. You've got ones that are very creepy. The one that probably stands out to a lot of people is the one that Stephen King's in because it's got kind of a funny twist to it. It's hard to describe. There's a lot of dreamlike sequences in that are kind of funny, where the character is thinking, he's using his imagination, and you kind of get to see it. I love the colors on this movie. It's very brightly colored, like a comic book would be. So if you're a fan of anthology or you're a fan of horror comics, this has got a lot of those themes that you would see in those old EC horror comics. If you're a fan of Tales from the Crypt, the TV series by HBO, this is basically kind of what led to that. I think if you watch this, you'll probably see that you like a lot of these little stories more than the others. But for most anthologies, there's almost always a dominant story that's better than the others. This is probably one of the best ones, for all of the stories are above average. There's not really a weak point in this movie. I think a lot of these stories are stronger than the others, but none of them are really subpar. So if you enjoy horror, you enjoy anthology horror, you enjoy comics, George Romero, Stephen King, it's got it all. So for today's pick, I picked Creepshow, one of my all-time favorite horror movies from the early 80s, one of my favorite ones from my childhood, and I still watch it a lot. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. And then now I'll switch you over to today's bonus segment. Hey guys, back again. Once again, we watched another horror anthology movie. So once again, I am going back to the Haunted Trail mix that I talked about before. We did something where I just picked a lot of my favorite things based on the theme of chocolate peanut butter. This time we're going to do something completely different. We're doing a 180 on that, and that's the reason I'm calling this the Haunted Trail remix. Based on the suggestion that you guys gave and how I told you that I would like to see what you had, I would like to inspire you even further by saying, instead of going sweet, you go completely savory, and in this case, even beyond that, we're going extremely hot. So in this bonus section, what we're going to do is we're going to make the Haunted Trail mix with all hot ingredients, only a few little fillers that are only mild. The ingredients that I got here are not the hottest that are out there, but they're probably some of the most widely found, and I just picked basically the ones that I really enjoy. So the first ingredient I got is the hot, it's called Heat Peanuts by Planters, and these are just kind of hot and spicy peanuts. The next ingredient I got was the Flaming Hot Crunchy Cheetos. I really enjoy those. The next thing I got is the hot and spicy. These are the Tabasco flavored Cheez-Its. And then for my filler, I got Gardettos, but I got the Chipotle Cheddar. This is pretty mild, and this would be sort of along the lines of just eating a flavorful pretzel. So for this segment here, I'm going to bring you guys in close. I'm going to mix it up. Got my bowl here once again. I got the Gardettos, and like I said, this is just kind of a filler. And this is probably one of the things that have the most in there. Next thing I'll add is the Flaming Hot Cheetos. Notice that color. These are definitely starting to get a little hotter. And then I've got the Tabasco flavored Cheez-Its. And then last, I'll add in my hot peanuts. And that's good. Like always, mix it up here. Wow, look at that, guys. That looks great. Okay, let's try it out. I've got a Cheeto here and a Cheez-It and maybe a couple of peanuts. That's really good. It's a little bit warm, especially if you get the Cheetos and you get those Cheez-Its. Both those are pretty warm. That's really good. When you get the Gardettos in there, it really kind of balances that out because it's got a lot of flavor, but it's not a lot of heat. As always, I would really like to see what you guys would come up with. If you've got your own flavor ingredients in the savory realm that you would include in one of these. Maybe you'd like to do barbecue flavored, or maybe you'd like ranch flavored. The choices are limitless. So once again, if you guys have a suggestion, or if you'd like to do a video response and showing me your favorite Haunted Trail remix, definitely do it. You know, I'd love to see it. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed the snack. I hope you guys enjoyed the movie, and I've got to get a drink because this is getting a little warm. Okay, see you guys again tomorrow.